Hey, puppy trades! No, you're not hearing things. No, you're not hearing things. You're not going crazy. You're gonna hear a much different tone from me in this video. And that's why you got background music now. We have background music now. That's where we are. And if you think I'm gonna go through these lists of other FinTwit influencers and I'm gonna talk crap about them, I'm gonna mention how I have just completely slaughtered Nvidia into smithereens, and that the fact that Nvidia was trending all day. Nvidia was trending all day. Does it really make sense that Nvidia would trend all day? A lot of people seem this wasn't even FinTwit. Biggest trends in the whole internet was talking about Nvidia earnings today. And I'm like, man. Bang. 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 Whole semiconductor sector. Bang. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad. And I'm not judging any of these people because I have a lot of respect for these people. Because I've done it. I have retired off of the stock market. I pay all my bills and dividends. I'm going to get more dividends, way more dividends than all my monthly bills next week. I'm going to get way more in dividends than my monthly bills. I'm retired. And my wealth is going to keep growing exponentially after this. So, as someone who has won the race and gone as far as you can in the market and really just kind of do it. Everyone's dream, retiring from the market. You know how many people go and they study finance? They don't ever think that they themselves are going to retire from the stock market. They think they're going to make a living off the stock market selling 401k plans. It is so hard to do what I've done. But let me tell you something. I tried to be a big time influencer like these guys. And I'm here to say it's harder to retire from the stock market and build the entire system from the ground up by yourself without ever making more than a $45,000 salary. It is much easier to do that than to be a social media influencer. I've learned that. We got background music in this video. Background music. I have a producer, an actual producer, who was in multiple films, who was an expert in advertising and marketing. He was the one who told me to add this music. And I ain't complaining. This is the way the world is. And this very last slide that I'm going to talk about, I didn't realize the beautiful theme in this video because I made a little video in December about other ETFs and how they were going to take the fun out of the market. They were going to take the duality out of the market. And this idea that Nvidia's earnings is just something fun people gamble on and post memes about, I was showing how that's going away. Like that is going away to where gambling and picking directions, the fun, that's going away. And so this video was about how Rick and Morty, there's this guy who has this old trope, this classic old trope of the catch-22, the monkey's paw. You can't have something good or a real genuine blessing. There's always some curse or some string attached to it. And I talked about how dumb that was, how dumb of a trope that was, and how I really agreed with the writers of Rick and Morty that there was some, that this was kind of ridiculous. That not everything in life that's good has to be, with some trade-off, like the monkey's paw, like the catch-22. And so what Rick does is he uses his expert science skills to remove the trade-offs from all of this man's shop, so that his magical items, now they only do good things. They don't have any monkey's paw, catch-22 curse, right? But going all the way, retiring from the stock market, really doing the American dream that everyone says they want to do, I've learned this catch-22, this monkey's paw, it is real. Because what I do, most people do not actually think they're ever going to retire from the stock market. So even though they have massive amounts of wealth in their 401ks, much more invested than I do, they just see the stock market as some form of entertainment. You know, look at this Nvidia CEO signing this woman's tits. And I actually tried to feed into that and talk about how Nvidia means vagina. And I used that information perfectly to call the top. And I said, right when the June quad witching occurs, Nvidia is going to top. Once the third quarter begins, Nvidia is topping. And what's the CEO of Nvidia doing? Signing a woman's top. And Nvidia means vagina. That wasn't enough.
There's still time to squeeze more out of summer at 20%.
I'm trying to squeeze.
Now, if I can just squeeze.
If I could just squeeze this viewership that Nvidia has. But the truth is, in my quest to really retire, I started selling lettuce and vegetables in a world that wants to eat hamburgers every day. They don't want healthy food. You know, they want Nvidia CEO tits. That's the top. And you know what? This was the top. This was the CEO of Nvidia telling you, this is the top. My company's name means vagina, and I'm signing a woman's top. Hello? Exactly what I said. As soon as the third quarter begins, Nvidia's gonna top. So, I took a while ago, in July and August of last year, I invested in the YieldMax ETF NVDY. What that ETF does is it buys an at-the-money call that's usually a delta of 50, and it sells a cash-secured put that's going to have a delta of negative 50. So selling a negative 50 delta put is a positive delta of 50. 50 plus 50 is a delta of 100. That's called a synthetic exposure, because they don't own 100 shares of Nvidia. But because Nvidia doesn't really pay a dividend, they get the exact same exposure by buying a call and selling a cash secured put, both at the money. And they save tons of money by doing that, as opposed to buying 100 shares. And then what they do is they sell an out of the money call, 5 to 10% out of the money that expires in a couple weeks, short-term options, and all that premium gets paid to me as an NVDY investor. And that actually has happened so many times that this position that I took a lump sum position in August and July of last year, it's not only paid for itself in dividends once, it's paid for itself in dividends twice coming into September. So that's my lump sum position in Nvidia. It's paid for itself twice. So now what I'm doing is I'm doing something called adding short strangles on Nvidia. I'm adding short strangles on Nvidia through a new ETF called DIPS. What it does is the opposite of NVDY. It buys a put and then it sells an at-the-money call. So I can't sell at-the-money calls in my brokerage account, and I'm gonna guess basically every single person that's watching this video does not have the collateral or the skill set to sell a naked call on Nvidia. And even if they did, it would be much more cost efficient to do it through this ETF. So they sell a naked call that's at the money, and they buy a put, a negative 50 delta call, or it's because they're selling it, it's a negative 50 delta, and then the put's a negative 50 delta. That's a delta of negative 100. So what they do is they sell very short dated puts that expire every week on Nvidia that are out of the money, and then they buy super far out of the money calls to hedge that naked call. So combining these two ETFs together, NVDY and DIPS, I've gone over this with TSLP and CRSH a bunch. NVDY and DIPS has not been back tested. The reason that I believe this is going to work for me is because I have a pre-existing position that is already deep in the money, such that it's already paid for itself twice, or almost twice, in September. And the cost basis is actually over. I'm still positive in my cost basis. So that's my previous existing position. This is just going to recap all that. I took a lump sum position in NVDY in July and August of 2023. By February and March, the entire position had paid for itself in dividends. Even after Nvidia topped at the end of Q2, like I predicted, my Nvidia cost basis was still in the green, besides already paying for itself. As September nears, my Nvidia position will have paid for itself twice. Instead of sitting on it, I'm actually going to add to it with delta neutral short strangles. Before the stock market crashes, and eventually there is going to be a massive crash in the stock market, I am going to buy NVDY and DIPS blended together, like how I have CRSH and TSLP blended together. And that, in my opinion, means I'm never going to care about the stock market crashing, because the volatility index going up is going to always be a positive thing. It's just going to make the premiums on my delta neutral short strangles bigger and bigger and bigger. So I can do the same thing with crypto soon, because I also have a winning position on CONY and BITO. I can do the same thing with CONY and Fiat, helping protect from a Bitcoin and MicroStrategy crash to keep collecting those premiums. So what DIPS does, I've already gone through what DIPS does. I've described it pretty accurately. These are the current NVDY holdings. You can see they're selling the 116 put, and they're buying the 116 call. That gives them their 100 delta. And then these are the two options they sold, the 130 call, the 124 strike call. We can see that they expired worthless. So when I get a dividend from NVDY in September, that's much better than if I just own shares of Nvidia. And the entire time, I've been getting my Nvidia gains paid out to me. They're not unrealized. I'm not timing the market. I, like Rick, don't really care. The fun has been taken away. The fun has been taken away. Good offense was the best defense. I got in the driver's seat on a massive winning position that's paid for itself twice. It can't become a loser. So I'm gonna make it a winner. I studied long straddles and long strangles for 4 years before they became possible to enter through ETFs. People are still gonna say it's a coincidence that it was at this major top that all these ETFs got released. It's gonna be really important to understand that wasn't a coincidence, because I think this top we just put in was the shot across the bow. We're gonna make another one, and we're gonna enter this wave 5. But then the real crash is gonna come. The real crash is gonna come. It's gonna make August 5th look like literally walking down the park. The real crash is gonna come, and I'm gonna be prepared for it. I've taken the fun out of the market with these funds.